that has occurred, 150 Palestinians versus over 1,200 civilians injured, mostly women and children. You could perhaps tell us more about that compared to the 7 that have been killed by Israel. And of course, Israel says that there's an address for every one of these missiles that have been targeted in the Gaza Strip. And these are the stats that they have to show for it. All these civilians who have been killed, not to mention the ones that have been injured.
Well, what's happened to the Palestinian people can only be explained by the following idea, which is that Israel treats the Palestinians as if they are not human beings. Because, as you said, there have been hundreds of Palestinians injured. You know, they have bits of children with shrapnel embedded in their stomachs, toxic shrapnel. Israel has used white phosphorus. That was confirmed in the last couple of days. Israel has been bombing the Gaza Strip with land, sea and air attacks consistently for over a week now. And the Palestinians suffer from this state terrorism. This is the only rational language to use for it. And it's very difficult to explain in any rational way the Israeli position other than saying Israel thinks that the Palestinians are not human beings. That is the only requisite idea to explain why Israel will use this force on a largely defenseless third world population here in Gaza.
Kevin Barrett, we need to expand on this more. We can't sweep this under the rug regarding what has happened to these people in Gaza, these Palestinians who were killed. Some women, some children, many below the age of 5. This is what the Israeli military spokesman has said. Targets are exact. Every Israeli missile has an address. But if you recall, there was a house in which 11 civilians of the same family were killed. Among the 11 dead were 4 small children, 5 women, including an 80-year-old. And when asked about the presence of a Palestinian fighter, it could not be verified. What can be done in terms of what has occurred regarding these deaths and these injuries on Israel?
That's right. Israel has been in the last few days targeting journalists. 3 have been killed so far, and various media workers and support workers of media organizations, local media organizations here in Gaza have also been specifically targeted, deliberately targeted, admitted by Israel. Israel has taken 2 of Palestine's biggest TV companies and said they're actually not TV companies. They're associated with Hamas, so anyone that works for them is actually no longer a civilian and is subject to being targeted as a terrorist or a terrorist supporter. So we've seen the targeted assassination of 2 cameramen that work for one of these 2 principal channels here in Gaza only in the last couple of days. We've seen children coming in, as you alluded to earlier, the Al-Dalou massacre, which occurred at the weekend. 4 children were killed. 4 women were killed. Pregnant women have been killed. You know, dozens of elderly men have been killed. Dozens of children have been killed. And it's very difficult to understand what Israel expects the Palestinian people to do when it inflicts this sort of collateral damage on this civilian population.
Different experiences that you have witnessed there of the different violence taking place via the air raids, not to mention the shelling that has come from the sea.
Well, you may have seen my head turn and my head rise in the last few moments. That's as bombs rain down around this area that I'm in what's meant to be the safest part of the Gaza Strip, in West Gaza City by the Mediterranean Sea. In the 1 kilometre surrounding me, bombs have been rained down on Gaza just in the last few moments. Well, as I said, we've seen the Al-Dalou family massacre, we've seen the Al-Azam family massacre, we've seen the Al-Hijazi family massacre. I went to the morgue a few days ago and saw handfuls of children in the morgue with their parents grieving for these children. And what was interesting was to see the resilience in the parents, to an extent, political resilience, if you will, that they will not give up their rights as Palestinians. They will not give up their fight for their rights and for justice for their people. And we saw that last night when Israel ordered thousands of Palestinians to evacuate from their homes on the east side of the Gaza Strip, bordering with Israel, and many Palestinians refusing to heed that order. Many people were citing as the reason they will not let another Nakba, they will not let another action of displacement be forced upon them, that they would rather die in their homes, you know, with honor, some people have said, than to be driven out on the order and command of Israeli might. So Palestinians have suffered unimaginable, inhumane grief over these last few days. But there is a reunification to an extent between Fatah and Hamas. There is a real unified civil support here in Gaza for the resistance groups which have done such a strong job in repelling Israeli aggression. That's according to various and most Palestinians here. Most Palestinians here support the resistance, support their operations and their ability to deter Israel from continuing to pound the strip even harder and harder. And I think it's now on the journalistic and historical record that over these last few days the resistance has deterred certainly an Israeli ground invasion, if not more airstrikes and more pounding of the Gaza Strip, which has been constant. It hasn't lulled for more than 90 minutes the whole 8 days. It's been land, sea and air. And every single person in the Gaza Strip, including internationals, have suffered some sort of psychological cost as a result of that state terrorism.
Interest is in destabilizing the Middle East and making it more amenable to Zionist expansion and domination. This is a country that has vastly exceeded the borders that were not awarded to it by the United Nations in 1948. That was simply an advisory vote by the General Assembly. It has no force of law. This is not a legal country. The Zionist entity in occupied Palestine is not a legal country. And the only way it can continue to thrive in the minds of its crazy leaders is to keep butchering Palestinians, continuing the genocide, and continuing to steal more and more land. That's why it won't even define its borders. Israel is not an official U.S. ally. You can check that fact anywhere you want. And the reason it's not an official U.S. ally is that Israel refuses to declare its borders because it wants to keep stealing more and more land and murdering more and more people until it ends up with Greater Israel, everything between the Nile and the Euphrates. That is the quote-unquote Israeli interest of the lunatics in Tel Aviv. And the Iron Dome, you're telling me that that's a defensive system? Give me a break. This phrase Iron Dome came from the Iron Wall of Jabotinsky, the godfather of Zionist genocide, the man who wanted to exterminate all of the Palestinian people. And the so-called Iron Wall, what that's really about, and this apartheid wall that's stealing even more Palestinian land, crowding them onto less than 15% of their land, is once again an offensive system that is designed to dismember Palestine and complete the ethnic cleansing and genocide of the people of Palestine. And